Anyone who wishes to die should come closer. Gerard picked up Dia, who was standing behind him, and ran to the front of the carriage with Olive. Marin, diameter. Hold on tight. Once Marin and Dia were placed inside the cart, Elmis and Olive followed. Eubis then clung to the iron bars. Handers leaped onto the driver's seat and took hold of the reins. After ensuring everyone was secured, Gerard hung onto the back of the cart and gave orders to Handers. From now on, we return to the Duke's residence as quickly as possible. Yes, Your Excellency. The nobles holding swords hesitantly approached the carriage little by little. At this, Gerard coldly raised the corners of his mouth and released a fierce aura. The stones scattered on the ground swirled as if forming a barrier around the cart. The nobles retreated from the ferocious energy emanating from the stones, which seemed ready to fly at any moment. The emperor then shouted at the imperial palace guards. With a furious expression. What are you doing? Capture them. In response to the emperor's roar, Guard Captain James lowered his head with a grim expression. Your Majesty, it is too dangerous. What? The emperor glared at him with eyes filled with rage. If the Duke of the West draws his sword, no one here will survive. Leave the attack to the nobles. James swallowed these words with a bitter expression. In the end, everyone had no choice but to stand there and watch the carriage drive away. The emperor hurled a vase against his desk with a furious expression. Broken pottery scattered across the ground, and water-soaked flower petals spread everywhere. The emperor's golden eyes blazed as he surveyed the destruction. The Duke of the West should have fallen in such an ugly manner. With the Duke's departure, the hunting festival had ended in complete failure. Nothing had gone according to plan. A witness to accuse the Duke of the West's fiancée. Everything had been perfect. He had been planning all of this since he first received the report about the Duke of the West's fiancée. Now that all the nobles had witnessed the scene, he had thought he would finally be able to bring the Duke of the West to his knees by accusing his fiancée of being a witch. However, the Duke of the West had dared to stand before the emperor and fled without hesitation. Useless fools. The emperor struck his desk and breathed heavily. His chamberlain, who had been quietly observing the emperor's outburst, approached with concern. Your Majesty, are you all right? Do I look all right to you? I threw the Duke of the West and his fiancée out as prey, so why couldn't anyone devour them? Everyone witnessed what happened today, Your Majesty. Rumors will spread like wildfire, and even the Duke of the West will abandon his fiancée once public opinion turns against her. So please, calm yourself. Hearing the chamberlain's measured words, the emperor suppressed his anger and regarded him. Do you truly believe that will happen? Of course, Your Majesty. It simply requires time. Very well. We shall wait and see. After all, there is no one I can trust except you, Chamberlain. The emperor smiled contentedly, leaned back slowly, and closed his eyes. Then he opened them again and frowned when he noticed his desk with the broken vase. Why is the vase broken? It was my fault, Your Majesty. It fell because my hands were slippery. I'll clean it up immediately. TSK. How careless of you, Chamberlain. I apologize. The Chamberlain's eyes darkened as he bowed. The Emperor's episodes were occurring with increasing frequency. Gerard gazed out the window with an impassive expression. A large crowd surrounded the Duke's residence. They were soldiers from the Imperial Palace. The soldiers stood with their backs to the ducal residence, holding long spears in their hands. Olive, standing behind the Duke, began his report with a tense expression. 300 soldiers have sealed off the Duke's residence. It appears they've trapped us here to prevent our return to the West. They're also preventing the staff from leaving. The Duke's broad back remained perfectly still. Butler, how are the staff responding? They were disturbed for a while when they realized they couldn't leave, but they've calmed down now. We have sufficient food and water. It's just. Butler Canelum hesitated, as if unable to continue. Only then did the Duke, who had been staring out the window, turn around. Both Butler Canelum and Olive felt chills run down their spines at the Duke's expressionless face, as if he were wearing a mask. Olive spoke in place of his father. Rumors about Miss Marin are spreading rapidly. The Duke's grey eyes darkened with cold fury. No one is to speak without permission. Butler Canelum hurriedly bowed in response to the Duke's warning. Yes, Your Excellency. This will be a race against time. Olive nodded slightly in agreement. May I ask what you plan to do next? The Emperor dared to choose Marin as his prey. I am simply protecting her. The Duke's voice as he spoke each word was ice-cold. Olive clenched his jaw tightly. He too felt rage when he thought about what had happened, but he was surprised the Duke had shown such restraint until now. From now on, Vines will completely withdraw from all matters related to Western trade. Meanwhile, spread the story of how Pan was originally an ordinary rabbit and how she came to help Marin. We will bury the rumors with better rumors. Yes, Your Excellency. Olive replied firmly, though his eyes betrayed his anxiety. Vine's withdrawal from Western trade was no simple matter. Although the Western Duchy was undertaking a large-scale cleanup of Western trade routes, monsters still occasionally appeared. What would happen if the West completely withdrew its support? On a small scale, many nobles and merchants involved in Western trade would face ruin. On a larger scale, the entire empire's strength would be jeopardized. Cold sweat naturally began to run down his back at the thought of what was to come, the dark clouds that would soon hang over the empire. Come in. When Olive quickly turned and opened the office door, he saw Gia standing there with a hesitant expression. We'll take our leave. Olive and Butler Canelum excused themselves. After the two departed, Gia approached with a somber expression. How is Teacher Marin? She's with the rabbit. Is she all right? Gerard shook his head silently. Marin, who had been petting Pan throughout the entire journey back to the Duke's residence, hadn't been able to stop crying. He had no choice but to watch, his stomach burning as though he had swallowed fire. I saw the soldiers surrounding the Duke's residence. What on earth does His Majesty the Emperor want? Dia clenched her hands tightly and spoke with difficulty. By holding Marin hostage, he likely wants to force my submission. Ah. A long sigh escaped Dia's lips as she lowered her head. Everything was so confusing. The Crown Prince was a good person, and little by little, she had begun to develop feelings for him. But now she no longer knew if her choice had been right. Dia slowly raised her head and spoke with determination in her eyes. I will not marry His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Let us return to the West immediately. Gerard regarded Dia with a silent gaze. He saw a grief-stricken face struggling to hold back tears, and a delicate young woman who could barely keep her trembling hands steady. He felt deep sympathy for his niece, who had lost her parents early and been forced to grow up far too quickly. That is not an easy decision to make. It was not easy. But if I marry His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, the West will remain forever entangled with His Majesty. Gerard spoke frankly as he met Dia's resolute eyes. Diameter. I want you to be happy. Dia's eyes widened as she looked at the Duke. You understand how hard it is to let go of someone you love, because you've already experienced it yourself. Tears welled up in Dia's eyes at his calm but gentle tone. I. Her throat was so tight she could barely speak. I'll find a way. Just give me a little more time. Yes. Thank you.